December 5, 1941. Wolfschanz headquarters, East Prussia. The air inside the map room is thick with cigarette smoke and the sour smell of too many unwashed staff officers who haven't slept in days. Adolf Hitler stands hunched over the giant situation table, his left hand trembling slightly as he traces the thin red arrow pointing like a dagger at Moscow, only 18 miles away now. The city's name is written in Gothic script, circled in crimson grease pencil. General Franz Halder, chief of the Army General Staff, clears his throat. Mein Führer, the troops are at the end of their strength. Temperatures have dropped to minus 38 degrees Celsius. Engines seize. Men are losing fingers to frostbite inside their gloves. Army Group Center requests permission to shorten the line and go over to the defensive until spring. Silence. The only sound is the low hum of the ventilation fans and the soft rustle of maps. Field Marshal von Bock, commander of the Army Group itself, steps forward. His face is gray. We are fighting with the last battalions. The men have no winter clothing. Ammunition is down to hours, not days. Moscow is impossible before Christmas. Hitler doesn't look up. His voice is low, almost a whisper, but it cuts through the room like a scalpel. Impossible? Guderian took Kiev in September. Kluge stood on the outskirts of Leningrad. You told me one more push, one more, and the Bolshevik capital falls. Now you speak of impossibility? He straightens, eyes burning. I have reports from the front. Reconnaissance aircraft photographed empty highways behind Moscow. No reserves. The Soviets have thrown everything they have at us and lost. One final effort, gentlemen. One final effort, and Europe is ours by Christmas. Colonel General Heichner, commander of 4th Panzer Group, exchanges a glance with Halder. They have both seen the latest Abwehr summaries. They know what Berlin refuses to believe. Hitler slams his fist on the table. The grease pencil jumps. Give the order. Typhoon resumes at dawn. Moscow will burn its lights for us this Christmas. Outside the reinforced concrete walls, the East Prussian forest is silent under a thin blanket of snow. None of them yet know that, at that exact moment, 400 miles to the east, something is already moving through the darkness. Something that will make every promise spoken in this room sound like the delusion of a madman. It begins with a low, distant growl that doesn't belong in the frozen silence. German sentries on the forward line of the 11th Panzer Division huddle inside a half-collapsed barn, sharing the last of their ersatz coffee. Their breath hangs like ghosts. The temperature is minus 42 degrees Celsius. Engines seize. Men are losing fingers to frostbite inside their gloves. Then they hear it. A deep, rhythmic thumping, growing louder, coming from the east. From the empty darkness the reconnaissance pilot swore was deserted. Private First Class Helmut Ritter is the first to climb out of the barn, frost cracking on his eyelashes. He squints into the black. Headlights, dozens of them, then hundreds, snaking across the snow like a glowing serpent. But these aren't truck headlights. They're too low, too wide apart. And the sound? Not the familiar clatter of German Maybach engines, but something heavier, diesel-rich, relentless. Ritter's fingers go numb on his Karabiner 98K. Lieutenant, those aren't ours. Lieutenant Weiss stumbles out beside him, binoculars shaking in his gloved hands. Through the lenses, he sees them now. T-34s, row after endless row, their 76mm guns jutting forward like accusatory fingers. wide tracks chewing through drifts that swallow German panzers to the turret ring, sloped armor shedding the pale moonlight like water. Behind the T-34s, darker shadows, KV-1s, monsters weighing 46 tons, shrugging off the snow as if it were talcum powder. Weiss whispers the words no one has dared say out loud for weeks. Siberians. They were told Zhukov had stripped the Far East bare to save Leningrad and Rostov. They were told there was nothing left. The first T-34 is less than 800 meters away now, closing fast. Its turbine-like engine note rises to a howl. Ritter's voice cracks. They're not even slowing down. Because they don't need to. The snow isn't an obstacle. It's their highway. In that frozen second, every German on the line understands the same horrifying truth. The Red Army isn't retreating anymore. It's hunting. A green flare arcs into the sky from the Soviet side, the signal. And then, the avalanche begins.
Dawn never really arrives. The sky stays the color of dirty steel. The first T-34 crashes through the forward German strongpoint at 60 kilometers an hour, turret traversing as casually as a man turning his head. Its coaxial machine gun chatters. German infantry, who moments ago believed themselves safe behind frozen earth and log bunkers, are cut down while still fumbling with bolt actions that feel welded shut by the cold. You can almost taste the diesel exhaust hanging in the air like blue smoke over a slaughterhouse. Hauptmann Hans von Schroeff, commander of a company of Panzerjägers in the 2nd Panzer Division, watches from a command half-track as 3 of his 37mm pack guns fire desperately at a KV-1 lumbering straight toward them. The shells strike the KV's glacis plate and ricochet away with angry orange sparks, as harmless as thrown pebbles. Von Schroeff screams into the radio, "Use the 88s! For God's sakes, bring up the flak!" But the 88mm batteries are miles back, frozen in place. Crews trying to coax their prime movers to life with blowtorches and prayers. The KV doesn't even notice the pack guns. It simply rolls over them. Tracks grind steel and flesh alike into the snow with the same indifferent crunch. Behind the heavy KV-1s come the T-34s in waves, not the ragged battalions the Germans have bled themselves white against for months, but fresh, factory-clean machines crewed by men in padded Telegreka jackets and white camouflage smocks who have never known defeat. Siberian divisions, the 1st Shock Army, the 20th Army, the 16th Army. Names that will soon be seared into German memory like branding irons. At 06:47 a.m., the commander of the German 106th Infantry Division reports to 4th Panzer Group headquarters in a voice already cracking. "They are behind us. Repeat, Soviet tanks are operating in our rear. We are being encircled." In a single hour, the front that took the Wehrmacht 6 months and 1 million casualties to reach simply ceases to exist. Men throw away rifles turned to clubs by the cold. Officers burn their code books in kitchen stoves inside peasant izbas that 5 minutes earlier were regimental command posts. A colonel is seen skiing westward on splintered doors, tears freezing on his cheeks. By noon on the 6th, the town of Klin, the northern anchor of the German thrust toward Moscow, is burning. Soviet T-34s with white air identification bands prowl its streets like wolves let loose in a sheep pen. And still, they keep coming. German soldiers who minutes ago believed victory was measured in kilometers now measure survival in minutes. One frozen Lanzer, face black with frostbite, is heard muttering over and over as he stumbles rearward. "They were supposed to be finished. They were supposed to be finished." They weren't. They were just waiting for winter. The telephone line from Army Group Center crackles like a dying fire. Hitler snatches the receiver from General Halder's hand the moment the orderly announces the call is from Field Marshal von Kluge himself. "Speak, von Kluge." On the other end, static, then a voice hoarse from shouting and cold. "Mein Führer! The front is gone. Klin has fallen. Soviet tanks are on the Lama River line. The 6th Panzer Division has lost contact with its neighbors on both flanks. I have no reserves. I request immediate permission to withdraw to the Rezha-Vyazma line before the entire army group is cut off." A pause long enough to hear the blood pounding in every ear in the room. Hitler's knuckles go white around the receiver. "Withdraw?" he asks in a voice almost gentle, the way a surgeon is just before he saws off a limb. "You will stand. You will counterattack. Moscow is 20 kilometers from our most advanced units. 20 kilometers. The Russians are at the end of their strength." Kluge interrupts, something no one in that room has ever heard a field marshal do. "With respect, mein Führer, they are not. They have thousands of tanks we have never seen before. T-34s, heavier models, KV-1s, KV-2s. They drive straight through our positions as if our divisions are made of paper. My men are fighting with their bare hands." Another voice in the background on Kluge's end, Guderian, shouting, "Tell him the truth, Hans. Tell him we are finished unless we fall back now." Hitler's eyes narrow to slits. "Put Guderian on." A shuffling. Then Guderian's unmistakable Swabian growl. "Herr Hitler, 2nd Panzer Army has been cut to pieces south of Tula. I have 40 tanks that can still move. 40. The rest are burning or frozen solid. The Russians are already west of Kashira. If we do not retreat immediately, there will be no 2nd Panzer Army left to retreat at all." Hitler's reply is ice. "You will hold until relieved. Every kilometer you give up brings the Bolshevik one step closer to the Reich. I forbid retreat. That is my order." He slams the receiver down so hard the bakelite cracks. The room is silent, except for the ticking of the wall clock. General Oberst Hoth, commander of 3rd Panzer Group, dares to speak. "Mein Führer, the temperature is minus 45 degrees. We have no winter lubricants, no antifreeze, no felt boots. The men are dying where they stand. The new Soviet tanks—" Hitler whirls on him. "Silence! I have read the reports. The T-34 is a crude vehicle. Wide tracks, yes. Sloped armor, yes. But it has no radio, poor optics, untrained crews. German spirit will prevail." He stabs the map with a trembling finger. "Counterattack. Throw everything in. The city will fall within days." No one meets his eyes. Outside the window, snow has begun to fall again. Fat, silent flakes that look almost peaceful. Inside, the first hairline fracture has appeared in the myth of invincibility. And somewhere far to the east, the avalanche is still gathering speed.
You have never seen men move like this. Not retreat, not even flight. This is something older, something biblical. An army dissolving into thousands of individual human beings who only want to live another hour. The Moscow-Volokomsk highway, once the proud axis of advance, is now a single white wound clogged with the dead and the dying. Abandoned Kuba wagons sit nose to tail, engines cold, doors flung open like broken wings. Horses, those that haven't been eaten, lie frozen stiff in their traces, eyes glazed with ice. Every few kilometers, a Panzer IV or Stug 3 squats on shattered tracks, turret blown sideways by an internal explosion, black soot streaming from every hatch like mourning banners. The Luftwaffe is grounded.
The fuel at every forward airfield has turned to jelly. The sky belongs to squat little Soviet PE-2s and swarms of white-painted LAGG-3s that strafe anything that moves. Temperature, minus 52 degrees Celsius in the shade, if there were any shade. Oberlieutenant Siegfried Knapp, adjutant to the 7th Panzer Division, keeps a pocket notebook as he walks west. His last entry, scribbled by the light of a burning half-track, reads, 12th December. Have not seen a functioning tank in 3 days. The Russians follow at a walking pace. They don't need to run. They simply appear wherever the line is thinnest, like ghosts that own the snow. The men no longer salute. They only ask, how far to the rear? I have no answer. At night, the horizon glows red in every direction. Villages torched by one side or the other, so the enemy cannot use them for warmth. The smoke freezes into black pillars that stand motionless for hours. Soviet loudspeakers mounted on T-34s prowl just behind the crumbling front, blaring across the wastes in German. Deutsche Soldaten, euer Führer hat euch verraten. Werft die Waffen weg und kommt zu uns. Bei uns gibt es Tee, Brot und Wärme. Some do, hundreds, then thousands, hands raised, stumbling eastward into captivity, because captivity suddenly looks like mercy. On the 9th, the 1st Siberian Ski Brigade slices behind the remnants of the 41 Panzer Corps near Krasnaya Polyana, the same village where German officers had looked through telescopes at the spires of the Kremlin only 10 days earlier. By nightfall, the Corps no longer exists as a formation. On the 11th, the temperature at Army Group Center's forward headquarters at Yukhnov bottoms out and breaks. The mercury simply freezes solid. And still Hitler's teletype clatters in every command post that still has electricity. Stand fast, not one step back. Victory is certain. Field Marshal von Bock collapses with a stomach ulcer and is evacuated by air. Kluge takes over Army Group Center and immediately wanders Berlin. Further resistance without retreat will lead to the greatest disaster in German military history. Hitler's reply arrives within the hour. You are relieved. Field Marshal von Reichenau will replace you. Reichenau lasts exactly 4 days before he too begs for freedom of maneuver. By the 12th, Army Group Center has lost the equivalent of 30 divisions in 9 days. The front has been driven back between 50 and 150 kilometers along its entire length, the deepest, fastest collapse the Wehrmacht has ever suffered. And the T-34s keep coming. Fresh brigades, fresh battalions, fresh paint still gleaming under the snow. Their crews sing as they advance. German soldiers no longer call them tanks. They call them the White Death. Because when you see one against the snow, it is already too late. The new year arrives without fanfare, only the endless whine of the wind across the Mazuren lakes. Hitler has not left the Wultschanz in weeks. Maps cover every surface now, some torn in rage, others annotated in shaking red ink with arrows that point nowhere but backward. On January 15th, he summons the heads of OKH and OKW to the main conference bunker. The air is warmer here, stifling, but the men still shiver. General Halder reads the latest casualty returns in a monotone that cannot hide the horror. Army Group Center, 340,000 irreplaceable losses since December 5th. Frostbite cases exceed combat wounds 3-1. Effective strength reduced by 40%. The front stabilized, barely. On the line, Königsberg, Rzhev, Yukhnov, Orel, but only because the Russians have paused to regroup. Hitler's face is a mask of yellow parchment. The tremor in his left arm is constant now. He speaks slowly, as if explaining to children. The winter is a temporary ally of the enemy. Come spring, we resume the offensive. The T-34 is overhyped. Our new Panther prototypes will crush it. The Siberian divisions are spent. But even as he says it, a staff officer bursts in without knocking, unthinkable a month ago, with a fresh intercept from the front. Field Marshal von Reichenau, the latest commander of Army Group Center, has dropped dead of a heart attack while skiing. His last words, scrolled on a scrap of paper found in his pocket, reads, "The army is broken. God help us." Hitler stares at the note. For the first time, something like doubt flickers across his features. He dismisses the room with a wave. Alone, he paces. You can picture him there, boots echoing on concrete, muttering about betrayal, about generals too weak for the task history has given them. By February, the purges begin. Guderian is sacked for defeatism. Hübner follows for an unauthorized withdrawal. Dozens of division and corps commanders are relieved, some arrested, a few shot. The Wehrmacht's old guard, the professionals who warned of this catastrophe, are replaced by yes-men who promise miracles. Yet the T-34 avalanche has changed everything. Soviet factories beyond the Urals churn out 1,000 tanks a month now. The Germans manage 300, and half of those break down before reaching the front. German soldiers on the new line huddle in snow holes, sharing body heat with the dead because the living are too few. One corporal writing home in a letter that will never be mailed. "We thought we were the blitzkrieg, but they are the storm, and winter is their weapon." Moscow stands untouched, its red stars gleaming defiantly under the snow. The road to the city is littered with frozen German dreams. And for the first time in the war, the question is no longer how soon until victory. It is how much longer until the end.
April 1942. The snow finally begins to rot. Black water runs in rivulets across the battlefield, revealing what winter had hidden. A carpet of steel and bone stretching from Moscow to Smolensk. Thousands of Panzer wrecks jut from the mud like the ribs of dead dragons. T-34s sit among them, some still wearing their white winter camouflage, turrets blown open by desperate 88mm shots fired at point-blank range. The earth itself smells of iron and thawed corpses. The front has frozen into a jagged scar. The Germans dig in, haunted, waiting for the next blow they know is coming. In the Kremlin, Georgy Zhukov allows himself one small, private smile when he reads the latest intelligence summary. The Wehrmacht has suffered more casualties in the 4 months around Moscow than in the entire previous 2 years of war, Poland, France, the Balkans combined. Stalin pours him a single shot of Armenian cognac. To the men who proved that winter belongs to Russia. Far to the west, in a quiet room at the Berghof, Hitler stares at aerial photographs of the Kremlin spires, the same spires German officers toasted with looted champagne in November. He no longer rants, he no longer screams. He simply marks the photographs with a blue pencil. Objective for 1942. But every general in the room knows the truth now. The myth of the invincible Wehrmacht died somewhere between Klin and Krasnaya Polyana, buried under 1,000 burning panzers and the bodies of men who believed one more push would bring victory by Christmas. The T-34 avalanche did not just push the Germans back, it broke something deeper. It proved that the Red Army could not only endure, it could strike, overwhelm, and terrify the invader on ground where no army in history had ever won. From this moment forward, every German plan, every boast, every order carries the same unspoken footnote. Remember Moscow. Remember December. The soldiers remember. They remember the sound of those wide tracks in the snow, the green flares, the diesel roar that came out of the darkness and never stopped. They remember that winter was not the great equalizer. It was the revealer. It showed the world which army was truly built for this war. And somewhere east of Rzhev, in a quiet birch forest where the snow is finally melting, a young Soviet tank commander chalks fresh words on the glacis plate of his T-34. For the motherland, for Moscow, for those who will come after us. The avalanche is over, but its echo will roll all the way to Berlin.